Assalamu alaikum, class 10th. We are going to start, actually continue the topic which we have started already, which was about the reproduction of a flowering plant. So we are going to start the cycle today. We the 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 topic in your book does not have a separate heading, but see on page number 79 on your book, second paragraph. Actually, shows the reproduction of it shows the reproduction, the life cycle of a flowering plant. Okay, so this is the start of your um, cycle. So please follow me. We were discussing the first wall and the second wall. The third wall comprises of the androecium. Actually, it is the male reproductive organ. If you look at the picture, see, this one is here. This is the male reproductive organ, which is known as the anther, and this is the female reproductive organ, which is known as the ovary. Okay, so the pink ones are the male reproductive organs, and the ovary, which you can see, is the female reproductive organ. And the male is it comprises of stamens. These are a thread-like structure. There is a filament, and at the end of this filament, at the end of the stamen, there is a anther. So this is the anther. It contains what? It has pollen sacs, and these pollen sacs are actually they contain microspores. So anther has pollen sacs. Pollen sacs contain microspores. Microspores are the pollen grains, and they are produced through meiosis. So see, here they are showing the process of this is the process of male reproductive organ, and this from here the process of the female reproductive organ starts off like the ovary. So see, this is the anther. It contains microspores. So these microspores, um, they go through the process of meiosis, and then they become haploid. Now we have discussed this already in your ninth class, that uh, whenever meiosis occurs, as a result we get haploid gametes. So these are the microspores, and each microspores germinates into male gametophyte during the reproduction. This cycle is related to sexual reproduction. This is not asexual, this is sexual cycle. Okay, see, when the anthers, when they are going to burst, then the pollen sacs are going to burst. The microspores are released, and the microspores are also known as the pollen grains, and these are male gametophyte. As you can see in the diagram, this is the male gametophyte here, which they are present in the microspores here. Actually, there are two nucleuses in each microspore. This is a microspore, this is a microspore, this is a microspore. So there are two types of nucleuses. One is the generative nucleus, and the other is the tube nucleus. Okay, so actually the nucleus of the microspore undergoes mitosis. So as we already know, mitosis produces the photocopy of that cell. Mitosis produces identical cells. So this nucleus, it undergoes through mitosis, it divides into two, and as a result of mitosis there are two daughter cells which are identical to each other. Actually, it undergoes through mitosis, and they produce a tube nucleus and a generative nucleus. The generative nucleus again undergoes mitosis, and it produces two sperms. Now see here, the generative nucleus, we were talking about the generative nucleus. This generative nucleus here undergoes through mitosis, and now it has two sperms, one first sperm number 1 and sperm number 2. Please, whenever you are going to make the cycle, write 1n and 2n, which is very important to identify that whether they are haploid or diploid. Okay, so This generative nucleus it divides into two, and it again undergoes through mitosis. And mitosis means again they are identical to each other, and the microspores now they are transformed into sperms. This is the tube nucleus, which is as it is. It's not changed. Now the next step is a germinated microspore has a tube nucleus and two sperms. Whenever they are going to ask you about a microspore which is germinated, it has what? Two sperms, one nucleus. Two sperms, actually, this generative nucleus has two sperms. It undergoes through mitosis and it produces two sperms. And this tube nucleus is present here as it is. This tube nucleus is present here as it is. Okay. So, uh, you must know that a microspore which is not germinated contains two nucleuses, actually generative nucleus and tube nucleus, and then after germination they have what? Two sperms and a tube nucleus here, which can be seen here very clearly. Now the next step is a germinated microscope. All these structures are male gametophyte generation of the plant. So this is the male gametophyte generation. Till here, see, till here we have understood about the male gametophyte generation. Now from here onwards, what is going to start? The female. This till here we have studied about the male gametophyte generation. This all is about male gametophyte generation. Now we are going to start studying about the female gametophyte generation. And see, that is actually the fourth whorl. Whorl means covering. So the first covering is, see, in here, if you see, this is the third whorl and this is the fourth whorl, which is covered by the third whorl. So actually it's the inner side. It's the innermost layer. So we call it the fourth whorl. And this is known as the gynoecium, and it is a reproductive part of the flower. Its units are carpels or pistils. Each carpel is made up of basal, ovary. So see, the carpels are made up of ovary and ovule. All these parts are there, and inside each ovule we have haploid. The main, see, you already know what is stigma and all these things. Very clearly understood that the each this is the carpel. Okay, I'll explain. This is the carpel. This part is actually the stigma. Then comes the style. This is the stigma. This is the style, and then comes the basal part is the ovary. So this part is the ovary. So this is the ovary. Basal means at the base, so that is ovary. Then inside ovary there are ovules. Ovules are actually the eggs. So ovules are present. There are one ovule or many ovules. Inside each ovule there are haploid. Again, microspores are haploid. Now these are haploid microspores. This is a microspore. This is a ovule. It undergoes through meiosis here, and first it was diploid. Then after undergoing through meiosis, it becomes haploid macrospore. Okay, it's not microspore. Pardon, it's macrospore. So they germinate into the female gametophyte generation. Where is the female gametophyte generation? This one is the female gametophyte generation. And so when the pollen grains mature, they are transferred to the stigma. So this is the stigma. They are transferred to the stigma from um, from the anther to the stigma. This is the process of fertilization, and as a result, there is, as we all know, that there is a tube nucleus in the pollen grains. They construct a pollen tube, which can be seen here. This is the pollen tube which they are going to construct inside the female reproductive organ, and now we have a tube nucleus and two sperms which can be seen here. After these two sperms, they enter into the female gametophyte after the formation of the pollen tube, and as a result they release the sperm after they get burst. Okay, as we all know that this is stigma, this is style, and here this is the, so so actually here when the tube reaches here, it bursts itself, and then double fertilization takes place. Why? Because as we know that we have two sperms. One of the sperms, they actually both of them enter the female gametophyte. One of them fuses with the egg and then forms a diploid zygote, and then see here, first fertilization and then second one. After the second fertilization, there the nucleus becomes the zygote becomes triploid. So 3N, okay, triploid nucleus forms, and this nucleus is known as the endosperm nucleus. So the resultant and the final nucleus, final product, is the endosperm nucleus, which is triploid, but the diploid is known as the fusion nucleus, but it is not the final product. After the formation of the endosperm nucleus, we have the zygote, which will be then developed into the embryo. Actually, if they are going to ask you about double fertilization, you have to write this process in 3 to 4 lines, that how the fusion nucleus is produced, and then how the endosperm nucleus, which is triploid, it is going to get produced. So the fusion nucleus here is the, this here fusion nucleus, this is the fusion nucleus, and this fusion nucleus is actually the associated structure. It is not the final structure, it is not the final um, product of the fertilization. The final product is this one, the endosperm nucleus. This is the endosperm nucleus, and this is the final product. Okay, after some time it is going to develop into an embryo, and the ovule becomes the seed, and the ovary changes into the fruit. As we all know, the seeds, they get mature and they get dispersed. We are going to discuss this later. Then if the seed gets suitable conditions, the embryo develop into new plants and the diploid sporophytes of the next generation. So this is the sporophyte, and now you know what are the gametophytes and what is the sporophyte. In case of the flowering plant, this is the sporophyte, which is diploid, and all the gametophytes are haploid in nature.